Where are you on the path? Whatever you want to call it, a spiritual path, path of unfoldment, moving to your soul, figuring out your authentic self. And we live in a very abstract universe, and having stepping stones or taking inventory of where we are along our path can be helpful. It isn't always good to constantly be checking in and always wanting updates, but every once in a while to kind of have an idea of kind of where we fit within the realm of being human and having this experience in this dimension, in this world. And I thought I would just share my perspective, kind of breaking it down into 3 levels, and then kind of giving an idea of those levels along the way. And then you can take inventory of your path and check in with yourself to see where you are along the way. And we'll see if I can get this video done before the tide comes in too far. I'm going to be lapping up on my feet as I'm talking. So 3 different levels, and I'm going to break these into 3 particular ideas. When we are so within the belly of the egoic frame, so that's kind of the first realm, that we believe that our thoughts are real and our thoughts are defining us, and then we're sharing those beliefs. This would be stage 1. And really, we don't have an understanding in this stage of awareness of our thoughts, that we can observe our thoughts, and that we don't own our thoughts, that our thoughts are they just come in and out of our existence. In this stage, the first stage, we're convinced that reality is our thoughts. And then we build stories within this, and then we create meaning with other people around us, and we don't realize that reality is something that is malleable, that we can change it. And stage 2 is people either on a spiritual path, or it doesn't even have to be called that, but just self-reflection, having an idea that our thoughts don't own us. We aren't our thoughts, and we can begin to observe our thoughts and let some thoughts go away, and let thoughts that don't serve us just go away, and we can choose the thoughts that serve us. And this is stage 2, and this is what I'm going to call for this video, when we figure out that we're a spirit having a human experience. So we've got the egoic experience, where we live within a very small sphere. Then we move into this other idea, which is that we're a spirit having a human experience, that we're connected to something bigger outside of us. And there's a lot that goes along in this, and I'm going to kind of go back and touch on these and places that we find ourselves along this path. So that's spirit having a human experience, and in this path we start to understand that we can observe our thoughts, that we're not owned it, that there's something greater outside of us, and perhaps we start to put our attention on spiritual or motivational or people outside of us that seem to have this bigger idea of the universe, and we start to put our attention there. Remember, back in the egoic realm, we live in a very small sphere, so we're enamored with the people who are fighting for supremacy of the stories, the egoic stories we put together. In this next level, we're starting to soften this relationship, and we're starting to realize that there's something bigger outside of us, and that we can progress and we can experience more in this world. And the last stage, or stage 3 for this video, is we realize that we're a human having a spirit experience. We're humans having a spirit experience. And kind of take those apart is that last stage where we're a human having a spirit experience is we understand the cosmic joke. Basically, the seriousness of that egoic framework. And then there's this stage where we begin to pull ourselves apart from those stories that the ego has told us are true about this world and who we need to be and how to be a good person and these kind of things, and they start to rip apart. In this stage, we're creating boundaries between this static stage within the egoic realm. We start to realize that there's this dynamic system. Can't pull that one. I'm not going to be able to pull that one off, I don't think. Where you realize that the world is not static, but it's actually dynamic, and it has room to grow, and we begin to create boundaries within this stage. We're saying we don't want this. We understand that there's something bigger out there, and then we get to this other stage where we're a human having a spirit experience, and that's when we recognize the cosmic joke, meaning that the ridiculousness of the egoic realm. And then we create within this state, the center stage or the middle stage, you're a spirit having a human experience. You create boundaries. You realize that you can create boundaries to stop these stories from really permeating your world. And so you can think if you think personally in your life, wherever you are, and I imagine if you're getting this and understanding this, that you're somewhere in between here, the spirit having a human experience and being a human having a spirit experience. So you start to find out that these boundaries, you start to set boundaries to get away from the egoic framework that creates all of this meaning. We realize in here that reality is malleable, and then the last stage is where we're free. That we truly get the cosmic joke. We understand forgiveness. That's something that happens in that middle stage. And I'm using my fingers to show that we start to recognize the malleability of the world. And then in the last stage, human having a spirit experience is that we get it. And, it may take a breath, but it doesn't, like, we realize that if we have relationships where we set up boundaries, where we needed to stop, having a relationship, that was pokey, let's say, that those walls are down now. That if under the right circumstances, we can engage with anybody, and that's when you're really free. When you're a human having a spirit experience, where you're really free, and you have found that reality is malleable, and the boundaries were necessary. All of this along the way is you have the egoic framework, then you have this the boundary stage, and then you have the complete freedom when you get to this stage. And what's happening between the egoic framework, because that framework is really a power grab between the prickly parts of the world and the gooey parts of the world. And the prickly people want to convince the gooey people ideas that they're wrong, so they try to fish them into their prickliness, and then the gooey people are like, no, it's all gooey, and this battle's going on. And then you recognize in this realm, you begin to be tenderized. You start to get tenderized, and the softness of reality starts to take place. The softness within your heart, there's a tenderization of the heart, sincerity, kindness, these kind of things just flush to the surface. Also, like in the middle ground with spirit having a human experience, we start to recognize the idea of forgiveness And by the end of this stage, we recognize that forgiveness just like washes through us, that it isn't something that will stick to us. And then there's the last stage where forgiveness is just like it's automatic, it's easy, because we understand the greater things, that all of these things were necessary. The ego isn't wrong. All of this is not wrong. It's just part of the experience of living within this reality. And so there's just this beautiful lightness, this buoyancy, which I call divine buoyancy, that happens here because we're not fished in to the prickliness. We live in this from a soft perspective. We give other people a softness to let them have their journey. And it really is, it's really an interesting experience to go through all of these and see that. So I'm just giving you these stages to kind of look at, for me, I can remember like knowing that I wanted this other stage, which I didn't know was a human having a spirit experience at the time. But what I recognized was that I started to see these stories in the middle, that I was a spirit having a human experience, but I still needed all these boundaries with certain relationships. And I held those, like, I need to keep this person away. I don't want anything to do with this person. And I needed to have those because I couldn't find the forgiveness. I couldn't let go of those aspects. And so this is the inventory you can take for yourself. If you still have some of this stickiness, just recognize that it's stickiness. It's not a matter that you need to get to this other stage at any point. It's just saying, okay, I'm on my way. And it whether or not you like it, until that washes through you, those stories are going to be part of your experience until they're just not a part of your experience anymore, and we can let that aspect of life just leave us alone, and we won't need it any longer. So I'm just going to sit quietly and consider if there's anything else I wanted to share with you today. Kind of wrap it up as the egoic experience, and you're probably not watching this video if you're in this experience. And this one, we start to loosen up, and lots of things can happen. They happen for me in this experience. And then it's just freedom when we recognize that we're humans having a spirit experience. And then we begin to recognize things like grief and the stories that were told to us about how things should be and whatever else are just gone. And we can really get on with enjoying our life. And for me, that's what I call Paradigm B. And I point people to the Beatitudes, which are just, they're just focal points. They're things to remember, put your attention on, that keeps driving you to something more brilliant, more beautiful. That this life is the gift of experiencing us. And it really is we can let go of the baggage that we brought from our past. And we can do this by holding strong points of view, strong perspectives that can pull us away and slingshot us away from the heaviness that lives in these other two realms, these other two stages of living as a human. And we know now that these messages, my messages, are being broadcast. Where it's not the popular. People have to go and find these more brilliant, beautiful, buoyant points of view and perspectives, but they're happening now. And so it's not it's not this heaviness. The people that are still drudging up and saying that we need to do all the shadow work and the things that I experienced, I recognize that there was a time period where I wanted to drag people through those experiences as well, and they're just not necessary. That reality itself is malleable and is changing, and being stuck to those old patterns is not something that's necessary anymore. And for me to tell you that your journey has to be difficult to get to get where your soul wants to evolve to in this realm would just be me trying to get credit for what I experienced and what I would call my suffering along my path. I recognize now that the heaviness that still lived in me and continued to live in me can move through us so quickly. We can wake up and live from a different perspective tomorrow, depending on how we put ourselves together, how we look at the situation that we're in. So I hope this is helpful. I came down here. This is so beautiful. The birds are hanging out. The tide's coming in. The rocks are coming. So I thought I would just leave you with a little bit of what I've been experiencing here on the beach, this very soft reality that's going on in my world right now. I wanted to offer to you. So I hope this is inspirational, and I hope you have the most majestic and amazing adventure and bring your gifts, your creative gifts into this world.